true motorcycle enthusiasts, that bold lime green color is an unmistakable symbol, one that belongs to a single brand in the world: Kawasaki. This Japanese manufacturer, together with its legendary Ninja series, has captured the hearts of millions of fans across generations. And while the word ninja might not stir national pride in Japan itself, within the world of motorcycling, it carries a different meaning: a legacy of mechanical sophistication, thrilling riding sensations, and a fierce competitive spirit. One that would go on to set unforgettable world speed records. But despite the global significance of Kawasaki Motors Corporation, the fourth largest Japanese motorcycle company, competing head-to-head with Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki, this division represents just 30% of the total annual revenue of its parent company, Kawasaki Heavy Industries. Because Kawasaki is far more than motorcycles. Behind its name lies over 140 years of industrial history, leading in key sectors like shipbuilding, aerospace, robotics, heavy machinery, and aviation. But how did this corporate titan begin? Who was the visionary behind the empire we know today? And is it true that a Hollywood movie catapulted the Ninja series into global fame? Today, we journey back to the mid-19th century to uncover the origins, rise, and triumph of Kawasaki Heavy Industries, and the legacy of its founder, Shozo Kawasaki. To truly understand the origins of Kawasaki, we must go back to the final years of the Edo period, an era defined by Japan's economic and social isolation, under the rigid control of the Tokugawa shogunate and its feudal clans. Shozo Kawasaki, our protagonist, was born on August 10, 1837, in Kagoshima, in the southern region of Kyushu. It was a place where samurai traditions still pulsed strongly, shaped by the influence of the powerful Satsuma clan. But Shozo wasn't born among swords. He was born among silks. His family ran a kimono business, part of a respected merchant class, though without the privileges of the warrior elite. In those times, a kimono wasn't just a garment. It was a symbol of status, refinement, and belonging. The most exquisite pieces, crafted with artisanal techniques and exotic fabrics, were luxury items in regional markets. This is the world in which Shozo grew up, surrounded by customers and deeply immersed in every aspect of trade. He watched his father select fabrics, negotiate prices, and most importantly, safeguard an impeccable reputation, something essential in a society where trust was everything. But there was something inside Shozo that stretched beyond folds of silk. Kagoshima, unlike much of Japan, wasn't completely isolated. The Satsuma clan, skirting around the shogunate's restrictions, had begun discreet trade relations with foreign ports, especially the Ryukyu Islands, modern-day Okinawa, and even parts of mainland Asia. These underground exchanges brought more than goods, they brought ideas. Stories spread of giant ships, steam-powered machines, and technologies far beyond anything Japan had ever seen. Those tales ignited Shozo's imagination. Selling kimonos was an honorable profession, but for Shozo, the world felt too small. That restless curiosity led him, at just 17 years old, to move to Nagasaki, one of Japan's few open ports to the outside world. There, for the first time, he saw the true scale of global progress. Steel ships, smoking chimneys, structures that shattered everything he thought he knew. Japan was still sailing in wooden boats, while Western powers ruled the seas with steam engines and iron hulls. But for Shozo, it wasn't a threat, it was inspiration. It was in that moment, standing before the brutal contrast between tradition and modernity, that the idea was planted, one that would define his entire life, to modernize Japan, one propeller at a time. After nearly a decade immersed in the vibrant, cosmopolitan life of Nagasaki's port, Shozo Kawasaki was no longer a young apprentice. He had become a shrewd merchant. He had built a network of strategic contacts, and at the age of 27, with all his savings and an unshakable determination, he moved to the dynamic port city of Osaka to launch his first maritime transport company. But the sea, like life, can be cruel to the bold. His flagship vessel sank in a storm, and with it, his fledgling company went under. It was his first major failure and his first great lesson. Far from giving up, Shozo decided to stay in the shipping industry. He began working for a company that controlled the sugar trade with Okinawa. At first glance, it seemed like a step back, but in truth, it was a tactical move. This job allowed him to get directly involved in the Western-style construction of ships, and more importantly, it gave him access to diplomatic circles, where the future elites of a new Japan were beginning to emerge. And that new Japan arrived sooner than expected. In 1868, the Tokugawa shogunate collapsed, ending nearly 300 years of isolation. The Meiji era had begun, a period of sweeping reforms, industrial modernization, and international openness. Shozo Kawasaki, who had long dreamed of modernizing his country through naval industry, finally found the perfect environment. His ambition caught the attention of influential figures in the new government, especially Matsuketa Masayoshi, a powerful and visionary politician, also from Kagoshima, who invested a large part of his personal fortune to support Shozo's plans. Thanks to that backing, in 1878, Shozo founded the Kawasaki Tsukiji shipyard in Tokyo. It wasn't just a company, it was the embryo of an industrial empire. Now, equipped with funding, skilled labor, and political support, Shozo Kawasaki began building steel commercial vessels that could rival those of the West. His shipyard became a symbol of the Meiji modernization era and a backbone of the nascent Imperial Japanese military. The first major turning point came in 1894, with the outbreak of the First Sino-Japanese War. The government needed ships and weapons. Shozo delivered both. He signed multi-million yen contracts and turned his company into an essential supplier of defense and logistics. But growth demanded change. In 1896, Shozo reorganized the business and passed the presidency to Kojiro Matsukata, son of his old benefactor. The shipyard was renamed the Kawasaki Dockyard Company. Shozo didn't retire completely. He continued as an advisor until his death in 1912, at the age of 75. During those years, he witnessed milestones that solidified his legacy. In 1902, the company built the Kobe Dry Dock, a monumental structure capable of accommodating vessels of up to 6,000 tons. Today, it's recognized as a cornerstone of Japan's modern industrial heritage. And in 1906, Kawasaki achieved the unthinkable. It manufactured the first entirely Japanese-made steam engine for naval use. Technological independence was no longer a dream. It had become reality. That achievement opened a new chapter. In 1911, the company expanded once again by founding the Hyogo Works plant, focused on railway development and the locomotive manufacturing. From the seas to the rails, Kawasaki's name would be carried across both. Shozo Kawasaki wouldn't live to witness the full glory of his legacy, but he had laid the foundation of one of Asia's most resilient and influential conglomerates. an empire that would go on to weather economic crises, world wars, and the turbulent waters of the 20th century. At the dawn of the 20th century, Kawasaki Dockyard was no longer just a shipyard. It had become a crucial cog in Japan's emerging industrial machine. And with the outbreak of World War I, its role became even more vital. Although Japan didn't directly participate in the European fighting, its shipyards turned into strategic naval production centers, building cargo ships, destroyers, and later submarines. But that war was only a prelude. The territorial expansion of the Japanese Empire required more than just ships. The military needed land transport, logistics, and air dominance. Kawasaki responded by diversifying even further. Steel was no longer shaped solely into ship hulls. It now took form in vehicles, trains, and aircraft. In 1928, its railway division had grown so significantly that it was reorganized as a separate entity, Kawasaki Railcar Manufacturing. Japan had stepped on the accelerator of industrialization, and the demand for trains was relentless. But modernization was no longer enough. Following the invasion of Manchuria in 1931 and Japan's increasing militarization, Kawasaki answered the empire's new call to arms. In 1937, it established a new subdivision dedicated exclusively to the design and production of aircraft. Thus, Kawasaki Aircraft was born. The company founded by Shozo Kawasaki had now become a military-industrial pillar of the Empire of the Rising Sun. Its fighters and bombers accompanied the Japanese military throughout Asia. Among them stood out the Kawasaki Ki-3, a tactical bomber used during the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Ki-10, a biplane deployed during the occupation of northern China, and the Ki-61 Haiyan, one of the few Japanese fighters powered by a liquid-cooled engine, widely used during World War II. By 1940, Kawasaki, alongside Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, was one of Japan's most powerful conglomerates. Its infrastructure was massive, its political influence undeniable, and its relationship with the imperial government absolute. But that prosperity rested on unstable ground. When Japan officially entered World War II, Kawasaki's production reached its peak. But with the empire's defeat and the unconditional surrender in 1945, it all came crashing down. The consequences were harsh. Allied forces intervened and banned all military production. The company's reputation was tainted by its collaboration with the imperial regime. Although Kawasaki wasn't formally dissolved, unlike the major zaibatsu groups like Mitsubishi or Sumitomo, it was forced into a complete restructuring. It was clear Kawasaki would have to reinvent itself or vanish. By the mid-20th century, Japan was wounded yet rebuilding, seeking new avenues to revive its industries. And it was during this critical transition that a division emerged, one that would forever change the destiny of the name Kawasaki, Kawasaki Aircraft. While the rest of the conglomerate resumed its operations, Kawasaki Dockyard focusing on commercial ships and research submarines, and Kawasaki Railcar laying the groundwork for future icons like the Japanese Shinkansen, or even supplying cars for the New York subway, Kawasaki Aircraft found its modern passport in an unexpected direction: motorcycles. Though barred from producing military aircraft, the division retained a vast arsenal of technical talent: aerodynamics experts, high-performance engine designers, and an obsession with precision engineering. Rather than vanish, they redirected that expertise toward a new frontier: civilian transportation. The shift didn't happen overnight. At first, they entered as suppliers. In 1953, they developed four-stroke engines, a major technological achievement at the time, for Meguro Manufacturing Company, one of Japan's oldest motorcycle producers. Then, in 1956, they partnered with Meihatsu, giving birth to the popular Meihatsu 125-500. The turning point came in 1963. Meguro, on the brink of bankruptcy, was absorbed by Kawasaki, and with that, Kawasaki Motorcycle Company Limited was born, a new division solely dedicated to motorcycle design and manufacturing. Their first result? The B8 model. It wasn't just a bike. It was a statement, a declaration from a company rooted in military engineering, now determined to conquer the streets of the civilian world. It didn't take long to expand beyond Japan. In 1966, Kawasaki launched the W1650cc, inspired by classic British motorcycles and aimed squarely at the American market. It was a bold move. The US was in the midst of an economic golden age, with a thirst for speed and high-performance vehicles. Exactly what Kawasaki was ready to deliver. In 1968, they established Kawasaki Motors Corp. USA, giving them direct control of their American operations. No intermediaries, no obstacles. Their assault on the global market had officially begun. And in 1969, they unveiled their first true icon, the Mach III. A 500cc, three-cylinder machine that could blast through the quarter mile in just 13 seconds. At the time, it was the fastest production motorcycle in the world, a missile on wheels that shattered expectations. That same year, another detail cemented Kawasaki's identity forever: lime green paint. At the 1969 Daytona race, the Kawasaki A1R appeared decked out in a bold, bright green, a color considered unlucky on racetracks. But Kawasaki rejected superstition, embracing boldness and uniqueness. From that point on, Kawasaki green became an unmistakable symbol. The decade closed with a historic corporate shift. In 1969, Kawasaki's three main divisions, Dockyard, Railcar, and Aircraft, along with the young motorcycle company, merged under a single name: Kawasaki Heavy Industries Limited, KHI. And thus, the Colossus we know today was officially born. With its new corporate structure solidified, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, KHI, entered the 1970s with renewed ambition. For Kawasaki Motorcycle Company, now with greater operational and financial power, the stage was set for a leap in innovation, expansion, and technology. In 1973, an iconic model emerged: the Z1, the pioneer of the legendary Z series. Also known as the 900 Super 4, this superbike featured a 903 cubic centimeter inline four-cylinder engine producing 82 horsepower, reaching speeds over 130 miles per hour. Its performance was outstanding, but it wasn't just the speed that made it legendary. It was the balance, power, design, and sophistication in perfect harmony. A motorcycle that redefined what a superbike could be. 4 years later, in 1977, another icon followed: the KZ1000. With an even more powerful engine, it became the undisputed queen of endurance races and drag strips, further cementing Kawasaki's reputation as a high-performance brand. But while the 70s built Kawasaki's prestige, the 80s delivered its crowning glory: a true golden era. It began with the Z1100 GP in 1981. Developed in partnership with Bosch Industries, it was the first production motorcycle to feature an electronic fuel injection system, a technical revolution that boldly challenged Honda and Yamaha. However, the most important launch of the decade was still in the shadows. After 6 years of secret development, 1984 saw the birth of the ultimate symbol of the greenhouse, the GPZ900R, the first Ninja. A lightweight frame, a 908 cubic centimeter engine, and a top speed exceeding 150 miles per hour. It was, without question, the fastest production motorcycle in the world. But beyond its mechanical prowess, it had something else: attitude. It was Mike Vaughn, marketing director of Kawasaki USA, who proposed its now iconic nickname, Ninja. Inspired by the stealthy warriors of feudal Japan, it perfectly captured the model's spirit: fast, deadly, and unpredictable. And as if that weren't enough, Hollywood would give it global fame. In 1986, the GPZ900R was immortalized by Tom Cruise in the film Top Gun. One scene said it all: Maverick racing an F-14 Tomcat. It was the perfect explosion of adrenaline, style, and pop culture. The Ninja had officially become a global object of desire. Since then, the Ninja series has never stopped evolving. Each generation has carried forward its DNA of speed, innovation, and aggression. From the ZX-11 in 1990, nearly reaching 186 miles per hour, to the hyperbikes of the 21st century, the Ninja H2, and its track-only beast, the Ninja H2R, technological monsters capable of reaching 211 miles per hour, thanks to their supercharged engines. But Kawasaki didn't focus only on the racetrack. By the late 90s, it expanded its lineup with the Vulcan series, inspired by the classic American cruiser style. Models like the Vulcan 1500 Classic offered a different experience: calm power, road comfort, and rugged design, a tribute to the spirit of the open road. At the same time, Kawasaki began an unstoppable winning streak in the World Superbike Championship. This category, featuring bikes based on production models, became the perfect battlefield to showcase Kawasaki's dominance. And those victories weren't just trophies. They translated into sales, prestige, and a growing legion of fans. From the streets of Tokyo to the racetracks of Europe, from the skyscrapers of New York to the deserts of Australia, Kawasaki had conquered the world. And it had done so with a simple but powerful formula: cutting-edge engineering, bold design, and a green roar that can't be ignored. In the past 2 decades, KHI has proven what its origins already foretold. It's not just a manufacturer, it's a strategic force in the global industrial landscape. At the start of the 21st century, the company operated in 50 countries. Today, its flag flies in over 100 nations, with a logistics and technology network that stretches from factories in Japan to innovation centers across Europe, the Americas, and Southeast Asia. And although its name is indelibly linked to the roar of its motorcycles, that is only one face of Kawasaki. Because Kawasaki is not just a brand, it's an industrial ecosystem. Beyond its motorcycle division, which accounts for just over 30% of its revenue, Kawasaki Aerospace Systems contributes another 20%. It is Japan's second-largest defense contractor, right behind Mitsubishi. Its factories produce everything from drones and helicopters to bullet trains and robotic arms. Each component bears the same stamp: precision, durability, and innovation. And its reach extends far beyond borders. Kawasaki designed engines power aircraft such as the Boeing 777 and the futuristic 787 Dreamliner. They also collaborate with Airbus and have taken part in developing components for satellites, space stations, and autonomous vehicles. In numbers, this empire is staggering. More than 40,000 employees worldwide, annual revenues exceeding $14 billion, and a reputation that stands shoulder to shoulder with global giants like Hyundai Heavy Industries or its Japanese peer, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. But beyond figures and fame, Kawasaki is preparing for the next great transformation: the era of hydrogen energy, electrification, and total automation. They're already developing hybrid motorcycles, clean propulsion submarines, and driverless trains. Undoubtedly, the future does not intimidate them, it inspires them. And perhaps that is the true essence of Shozo Kawasaki's legacy, an industrial spirit born on the docks of Nagasaki, forged through wars and rebirths, and today, a genuine emblem of Japanese philosophy. And that's how the story of Kawasaki comes to an end. An industrial colossus born among samurai and steamships that reached global glory on two wheels, driven by the roar of the Ninja series. If you're a fan of Kawasaki, the Ninja lineup, or the world of motors, don't forget to leave us a comment below. And if this story hooked you, you might want to discover how a company born from organs and sheet music ended up creating some of the most iconic engines in modern motorcycling: Yamaha. We'll see you in the next video.